Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate podcast. My name is Joe Bauer. I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how you doing today?
I am beyond excited today to finally link up officially with our new friend, Corey Geary here. You guys know there's certain topics that I go bonkers about. One of those in the past was legal wholesaling. If you haven't watched that podcast episode with our friend Jeff Watson, number 63, Jeff or Joe will drop it down below. But this is the first time since that podcast episode with Jeff Watson that I'm excited for you guys to meet Corey Geary today. This is going to knock your socks off. Better get your pencils ready. And I welcome Corey. Let's do it.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. Thank you so much. Truly honored and blessed to be here.
Yeah, guys, Corey is the founder of what we're calling Novation Nation. And you're like, what the heck is that? And today you are going to find out, especially you wholesalers out there, or you investors who think you can wholesale on the side, or you brokers, all you people are going to love this. And you're going to get to find out what novation means today, which is the hottest topic, in my opinion, that is sweeping the nation in the investment industry and in wholesaling and so forth. So we don't want to waste a lot of time with a bunch of chit chat back and forth that Joe and I normally do. We're going to jump straight into it because we might be here for a minute. So let's do it, Joe.
Heck yeah, Corey. The first question we have for you is we'd love to know your background. We'd love to know your life story. So as far as you want to go back and then tell us how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. Great question. So I was a blackjack dealer when I just stumbled upon real estate. A blackjack dealer for 17 years, keep your own tips. And I was making good money, about almost between hovering around six figures, right? And, just kind of drifting through life, not really having much meaning. But I was able to save some money up through this job. And one day we were at home. I used to love watching that Flip or Flop show with Tarek Al-Musa. I think most everyone here knows that show, right? And I'm watching that show with my girlfriend at the time, and she's a part-time realtor, part-time blackjack dealer. And she's like, why don't you flip a house so I can list it? I was like, I don't know. I don't have to flip a house to list it. It looks easy enough. 20 minutes and make $80,000. And next morning, I'm running around the neighborhood on my morning run, and I see one of those bandit signs, fix and flip, buy price, 250, ARV 350. And I'm like, hey, what the heck? What is this? I stop my run. I call that phone number, and I bought that house. It took me 6 months to flip it, and I made $8,000. And that was the very first real estate deal I ever did. And at least I made money on my first one. Second one, I started going to local RIAs, meetups, meeting wholesalers. I bought a second one from a wholesaler, made $20,000 on that one. But on my third deal, I ended up getting a new contractor. The old one, I can't remember exactly what happened. We ended up parting ways. In my third deal, I bought 4 houses all at once. I thought okay, I know what I'm doing here. And obviously, if I want to make 20,000 times 4, I got to buy 4 of these. So I bought 4 from the wholesaler. I had a new contractor. Well, he took us to the cleaners. Absolutely burned me. And I didn't do any due diligence on it. Register of contractors like you're supposed to, right? I didn't check with any of his previous clients. And I lost $250,000 with that guy. I had to re-wholesale the deals back to the wholesaler I bought them from. Set me back to zero. Like, I lost my life savings. I lost my 401k money from the casino. I lost my previous flip money. And I didn't want to give up real estate. And I'm like, yeah, it was a nightmare. And I didn't want to give up. So I literally Googled, how do wholesalers get deals? Because I'm hearing about, like, if you have no money, wholesaling is supposed to be the way, right? And Mr. Sean Terry popped up out of Google, and I ended up buying his course and went down that rabbit hole, joined his mastermind, and joined multiple masterminds, got a lot of one-on-one coaching, and went down the rabbit hole. It took me 10 months to get my first wholesale deal. I got it from direct mail and sold that deal to the wholesaler I was buying deals from and made $10,000. And that was my very first wholesale deal. So that's kind of a little intro for you of my real estate journey in the very beginning. Yeah.
Well, kudos to you for keeping going. I'm too much of a wimp, man, I swear. But I hear these stories of people that just get knocked all the way down, including Sean Terry. I think he had that experience as well. And come back up even kicking and screaming harder. You know what I mean? So
yeah, the way I looked at it back then is like, man, the only way I'm going to get my money back is if I push forward. If I'd have just stopped right there and they continued dealing cards at the casino, like I'd still be doing, never got my money back. And so I was like, the only way I'm able to try to get this back is if I go out there and do something. And then that was the determination. That was the pain that I felt. And I was using that pain to push forward.
Well, that is definitely a good story. And look at you now. So, well, let's jump into it. What our talk is today, which is what the heck is novation? Lay it on us. Let's just kick it off and let you take us down the path here, and then I'll pepper you with questions.
Absolutely. So the legal terminology of novations is replacement of contracts. So unlike wholesaling, where you're staying in the middle via an assignment, you're just assigning the rights of the first contract over to the investor. In novations, you're trumping the first contract with a new contract, and that's what everything's being done off of. So you have the AB contract, you go out and get a BC contract, and it trumps it, and then you work off the BC. It's been very common in commercial. It's very common in the rental space. A lot of people novate leases. That's been very commonly practiced for a while. And so it's not so common in the basically single family residential space. Although it's been around forever, kind of like how wholesaling was like 15 years ago. I think it was always around, but nobody kind of knew about it or practiced it. And novations is kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it's basically a legal term that has always existed in real estate. And in fact, I am actually in the middle of my CE, my continuing education for my broker license right now. And no crap, yesterday, I literally got to a part of the CE that covered novation. I mean, I could probably pull it up here. It's a basic contractual, it's a term that's been there forever. It's part of what brokers are taught and anybody in real estate is taught. And it is basically, like you said, the termination of one contract and replacing it with another. So it happens every day. We just don't call it that. It's a common practice, but smart guys like Corey here have figured out how to use it in a new way, I guess I'll say. That is, I think, a win for everybody involved. And so that's why I'm so excited about this, because it fills a hole. And as Corey said, with wholesaling, as you guys remember, I don't know if you wholesalers or anybody that's actually listening actually even realizes this, but when you wholesale a deal, you put a property under contract, you're A to B, and then you're assigning it, the B to C. When you assign a contract, you are not legally off the hook after you've assigned it. You are still legally liable in that situation. As they say, crap rolls downhill if it doesn't work out. With novation, once the deal is novated, as Corey's saying, you're off the hook. No more legal liability. Huge difference, right, Corey? I mean,
it is.
Big difference there, guys. So instead of A to B and B to C, it's kind of like it goes, what, A to C? Does it go A to C? And the B goes away.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, yes. It just trumps that first part of the transaction. And so a lot of people are like, well, how do you get paid then? That's a very good question.
Yeah.
We get paid via a lien. We put a lien on the property and we're paid through title on the lien, which is how we bypass the financing contingencies. Where in a wholesaling, if you assign a deal, you're unable to get traditional financing in the property because you get paid because you're not taking title. Well, with novations, we're just putting a lien in the property and getting paid off in the lien.
And the lenders won't pay a wholesale fee, right?
They won't pay a wholesale fee, but they'll pay any lien payoff. A mortgage is a lien payoff. A mechanic's lien is a lien payoff. I mean, you got all kinds of liens, and they'll always approve that. It's always just a line item on the HUD.
And so let's jump down that. We'll go a little bit deeper on that here in a second. Yeah. So let's just back it up for a second. Why did you even think about doing this? How did this
That's a great question. So I'll kind of back up on my story there a little bit. After I started wholesaling, we were doing some local wholesaling. I got to about where I was doing 5 to 10 deals a month, doing okay. I was able to quit my casino job. And then I was part of these masterminds, and starting hearing about how people were doing this nationwide wholesaling. And they're doing like 20 deals a month. And I live in Phoenix. It's very competitive here. And I was like, well, maybe if I go nationwide, I can really crack the code on the competitive, it's not how it really works. But so I went nationwide, and it was very painful at first because we didn't have a buyer's list in these local markets. We didn't know how to comp properties in these virtual markets. And so, we went nationwide. I turned my local marketing off, which I never recommend to anybody because I ran in the red for like 4 months, like deep in the red. It was very painful. Yeah. And spending all this money on PPC marketing, getting all these leads, and then like nothing closing. I mean, that was a nightmare. I had like 10 employees. I was just like, oh, what did I do? I just literally sabotaged myself. And I was at a mastermind one day, and I'm listening to this guy. This is out in Florida, and he had this local business, and he's like, "Yeah, I made $2.2 million last year, and half of it was novations." And we're like, "Well, what the heck is a novation?" And he starts talking about how he lists the properties on the MLS to conventional buyers, and he's able to pay more for properties because of it, and he's making more money. I was like, "What the heck on the MLS?" I'm like, if I could crack that code nationwide, it would fix my whole pain point that I'm at the moment, at that time. And so I was like, I got to look more into this. And so I started really researching and digging. I found people who were teaching it, bought some courses. The only problem is everyone who was teaching it on a very local model. And to consult my attorney's like, if you do it that way, you're going to have this liability factor attached to you. And I was just like, okay. So I had my attorneys work with me to basically kind of carve what I'm doing now and doing it nationwide. And so it's really changed the game for us. Where before we were mainly just wholesaling and some fix and flips. I do local fix and flips here in Phoenix, but then now I would say out of every 10 contracts, 8 of them are novations now. We're getting the novation paperwork signed on every deal. We're pitching novations on every deal. I want to see novations. When I see a wholesale deal come across my table now, I kind of cringe. It's no, no. So it was all about fixing a pain point for me. I'm going virtual and kind of like almost sabotaging myself from going local model to virtual model, just kind of following the trend. And then the novations really helped us, fix that pain point.
I mean, so once again, you were in a spot of distress and, like you did when you got beat up on your wholesaling deals. Now you're getting beat up. You've made it. Now you're throwing your money, all flushing it down the toilet, trying to go nationwide. And here you go, rise from the ashes again, like a phoenix. We'll say you're in Phoenix. That's my pun. And you go and you solve your way out of it, which is like almost like a true wholesaler. Like you're just built for this business. And so what's going on? Explain to everybody a little bit what that means. So wholesale deal, you go in there like a normal deal, and you're offering somebody your cash offer. And what happens to set the stage for a potential novation? Like if you start the conversation, is the message is still the same? Or, do you want a cash offer for your property, right? The marketing.
I say no matter what exit strategy you're trying to do, whether it be sub-2, seller financing, novations, lease options, you really need to be leading the conversation with cash offers. That's how we lead all our conversations, is pitching cash, finding out the seller's pain point, finding out what their picture perfect is. How do we resolve that problem? And that's how you should lead all your conversations. Lead in with a cash offer, and we anchor them there. So if we find out that the cash offer doesn't fit them because, maybe the mortgage is too high, then we're going to look at it and go, okay, does it fit a novation? And then we're going to go, hey, Mrs. Seller, unfortunately, we're not your buyer. Because as investors, we have to make a marginal profit. Now, that being said, we have this new program called our concierge service. Not many properties qualify for this program, but I pushed really hard against the underwriting team to get your property qualified, and they approved it. If I can get you that 190,000 net to you by us partnering with other buyers and basically bringing a buyer to close with us, would you be interested in working with us on this program? And so we pitched the Novation. If we find out their need price, I always say need price, not ask price, because we still want to negotiate down to what we've as deep as we can. And we pitch it. So that's kind of the sales process on the front end. If we find out the cash offer doesn't work. Now, if a cash offer does work and they agree to it, what we do is we pitch novations in the back end. We'll send the paperwork and then we'll go, hey, Mrs. Seller, I got great news. I know we were going to do that 190,000, but I think I got you a little bit more. I pushed really hard against our underwriting team, and we had this new program called our concierge service. If I can get you $5,000 more and we partner with a buyer at the closing, would you be interested in that? And so we teed up on the back end, offer them a little bit more money, and then we close the deal. And so basically now we got ourselves a Novation deal at almost wholesale pricing. And these are where our really big spreads come from. And the value add that we bring to the table with this is these sellers are calling us for one reason, and that is because of convenience. And so we're offering that convenience with Novations. We handle all the realtors. We handle all the title, any title problems. We handle the inspections. Any repairs need done to the property, we handle and take care of that. And we let them know all you got to do is sit back and collect your check. You're going to have to sign the final deed, because we don't do that. We don't do power of attorney. That's what a lot of people teach. We don't do power of attorney. So they sign the final deed and then they sit back and collect the check. We handle everything else, the MLS listing, the offers, the contracts, appraisal, inspection, title, and it's basically virtually hands-free for them.
And so when I first heard about this is interesting, okay? Because I feel like I'm a major rule follower and I don't want to break the rules, and I don't want to take advantage of people. I don't want to do anything. And I would think, why the hell would somebody do that? Why wouldn't they just go list it for sale themselves? I'll let you answer that. Why wouldn't they do that? Let's point it out.
And if they say, hey, well, my sister's a realtor, why don't I go list with her? So maybe you should. We're just giving you all your options. We always push people against their objections. That's almost sales 101. Even in wholesaling, when we're offering cash, and we push them against the objections. Say, if that's the best fit for you, absolutely go do it. You might be able to net yourself more money. But with our service, we're offering a concierge white glove service. And a lot of the times, these sellers, they don't want to deal with realtors. They don't want to deal with the inspection. They don't want to deal with repairs. A lot of these times, they don't want to deal with making repairs of the property, and we handle that for them. And so that's why a lot of them end up going with us. And a lot of the times, they might be making a little bit more by listing with a realtor, but some of the situations, not that much more, it's just depending on what the price we negotiated at.
So this is for that pocket. This is for the pocket seller that doesn't want to be, you can present it as an option. I'm all about presenting options, even as a realtor, right? So it's that pocket seller that doesn't even want to be hassled with a listing. They don't want to sign a bunch of listing paperwork. They don't want to have to worry about what's going to happen if the buyer's bank or some repairs. They don't want to do anything. They literally still want the hassle-free nature of it, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the key. They want no hassles, but they're unwilling or unable for some reason to accept a cash offer price, right? Yep, but they will accept something higher than that. So they, absolutely they can go list it. But it's like, if I told somebody that, they're like, why the hell would a seller do that? And you're like, you don't need to figure out why a seller would do that. You just need to understand that some will. Some will. Right. It serves a lane that you don't need to rationalize for yourself because you are willing to take on hassles. Some people just aren't,
Right. We're a problem
it serves
fixers.
A purpose.
Absolutely. And you'll get more people to agree with your novations than you will with your cash offers. And there's a lot of people still out there who will take cash offers. It's just the world we live in. They speed and convenience. There's a price to be paid for speed and convenience. And that's what wholesaling is, essentially. You're getting speed and convenience. Now, with novations, you might not have the speed, but you have the convenience still there.
Right. Right. Because that's the pitch, right? You have to say, if you have the time, you can get more potentially here, and it can still be hassle free. So when I talk to sellers, I'm like you said, you're talking about cash. Here, I'll say I have 3 cash options for you, right? Mm-hmm. Hassle free. You don't like any of those numbers. You don't like the net number on any of that. Well, okay, now I'm going to shift over to my concierge type of services that we provide. And it might be, and I'll say just for myself, I might have 2 of those. Now with you, I might have 3 of those, right? Because it's kind of like a net listing, but I don't want to do net listings, right? I could go work with Corey and I could say, just like I have other concierge agreements where I have other investor types that I work with that serve a certain concierge service like Curbio. I can come in and I can do some work to your house. You can get even more. It's going to take longer. It requires whatever. They don't want to do that. Well, then what do I have left? I can list it for you. They don't want to do that. What do I have left? I have Novation with Corey left. Novation with Corey left. And it allows me to still stay where I'm feeling up and up about it in my lane. And you need me and I need you. Okay. Because you need a realtor and I need you to serve, so you might be getting those deals coming to me, but as a broker, I might be getting those deals and coming to you.
Yep. It works both ways, 120%.
It can work both ways. And again, guys, you don't need to worry about what it means because trust me, there is a lane of sellers that want this pocket slice of a solution. They don't want to work with you after you are able to offer all these things, then they just simply aren't ready to sell or they don't want to sell. There's no motivation, or they have a brother that's a realtor, like Corey said, or somebody, and they'll just go list with them or whatever. So when I'm on the phone with these types of people, because I'm always wondering if they have the brother, which you guys might also be wondering, is I always say, I always wrap my phone calls with, so this all sounds great. I'll see you on Tuesday. Hey, one last question. What is your plan B, Mr. Seller, if this doesn't work out for you? Do you have like a friend or a relative that's an agent that's going to list it for you? I am able to get that answer ahead of time. Right. They're like, yeah, my brother is whatever. Then I know I have no chance, probably. And I'm going to really focus and never pivot because I'm going to just focus on what I know I can get done. If they say, I'm going to cross that bridge when I get there, I know right there, I'm in like Flynn, right? Yep. If you're not asking that, if your team isn't asking that question yet, it's such a good last question to give you that answer to even continue to steer the ship even further.
Hey guys, it's Julie here with a quick break from the show to discuss an opportunity some of you may have interest in, which is to work more closely with me. On almost a daily basis, I get calls from investors and brokers, both new and experienced, asking me for guidance or advice. I love helping you guys out, and it keeps me on my toes too. So with that said, I wanted to let you know that I have a private broker coaching community called the VIP Education Community. And the best part is that it's 100% free. That's right, it's free to join. So whether you're a traditional broker or a broker investor, my VIP education community offers personalized one-on-one coaching from not just me, but also from my experienced broker friends with expertise in all disciplines of real estate and real estate investing. We'll teach and share our modern marketing strategies, our tech and lead generation resources, plus teach you how to identify or offer up opportunities for yourself or for your clients using techniques such as seller financing, lease options, land entitlement deals, BRRRR investing, flipping, multifamily or commercial coaching, whatever you like. We've got it all covered for you. The future of real estate is changing fast, and to stay in the game, it's time to learn about all the options you can offer your buyer and seller clients, as well as, if you want, learn how to use those skills to grow your own real estate portfolio. If you'd like more details about joining my VIP education community, reach out to me at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com or text me at 206-910-2985 or just send me a Facebook message. My new favorite phrase is community equals confidence. So let's navigate the future of real estate together. Now, back to the show.
Well, let's go reverse into it a little bit more. Do you want to go through your 7 steps, or do you want to leave that for they can figure that out later? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd have to pull it up.
Well, we can go through it in general. So if somebody said, yes, I agree to your concierge service, what happens next? Like, what do they sign? Are they signing like a wholesale deal?
So, yeah, let's go through that. So obviously you still need your purchase agreement, your typical, everyone's using right now for cash. We do put a clause. It's in paragraph 9. We put a novation clause that we are allowed to novate this to a third-party purchaser. It's just a little upfront disclosure that my attorney recommended, even though it doesn't need to be there, but we want to be as safe as possible. So that's in paragraph number 9. So normal purchase agreements.
Does it also have assignment language in there, Corey, at the same time?
It does, yeah. In the same paragraph, we have novation and assignment language in that paragraph.
Gotcha.
Yep. And every contract legally is assignable and novatable. That's like that. But full, you want to disclose. It's better to disclose somewhere in the agreement. That way, if you end up in a court of law, you like look at paragraph 9. We said what we were doing.
And let me clarify one other thing. The goal is you're going to list it on the MLS, right? Here with the novation.
Correct.
So the point that we want to point out is you don't, as a broker thinking this, you don't need to have a MLS approved contract with their agreement. You're still using your wholesale deal, right? It's
on
not
the
like
AB.
Yeah.
On the AB. Yep.
Okay.
Now BC is different. So, So the next agreement we're getting, and this is just a nice agreement. I paid a lot of money to my attorneys to draft up. It's called the Novation and Indemnification Agreement. This agreement is it's a 3 or 4 page document that structures out exactly what we're doing legally and how the process is going to transact. And it indemnifies the seller, indemnifies me, and it's just a very nice, clean contract, and instructs the title company what we're doing. And it's just, that's the actual novation agreement. Even though you don't technically need it, but I recommend it because it protects everybody. The third agreement we send is called the attorney in fact. This is what we use to replace the power of attorney. Back in the day when I first learned this, everyone was doing power of attorney. They were getting, control over the real estate. That way they could, list the property and then sign the deed. And there's even gurus who teach to collect the proceeds. I never want to be in a court of law one day in front of a judge and be like, why did you take the seller's proceeds? And I don't want to touch their money. Absolutely crazy. And there's gurus who teach that. It's insane. So I got my attorneys, and it's like, okay, I want to figure out a more ethical way. And obviously, sellers push back with a power of attorney. If you're showing up with a notary and a power of attorney, we were getting phone calls. Why do I got to sign up a power of attorney? Why I got to sign my house over to you? So the attorney, in fact, it doesn't give you power over the real estate. All it does is give you permission to sign the listing docs and offers. Okay. That's it. So we're able to list the property on the seller's behalf and sign the listing docs and offers on the seller's behalf. We have no control over the real estate. We just have control over the signing rights. And that's what the attorney, in fact, has done. And when we use it nationwide, never had a problem with it. We've had one title company, I think they wanted us to notarize it. I mean, not a huge deal. So, the attorney
there must be like a legal, like a loophole-y thing there, like you said, because I can see somebody saying, well, the attorney or the power of attorney signing a notary is scary, right? But I wonder what that exact distinction is that makes it not required to have a notary. That's what I don't understand. Yeah.
Maybe because you're not taking power over the real estate or taking a power over their life or taking, it's just saying them telling you, hey, you have rights to sign listing docs for me. Maybe it's the level of legality. I'm not sure.
Are the listing docs are in their name?
Yes. So the way I sign listing docs get put in their name, and then I sign seller's name by Corey Geary, sign my name, AIF.
Yeah.
And that's how everything gets signed, including the offers. And so, yeah, but it needs to go in their name. The only time you would change that is if like you're in a state like Illinois, where we've had issues before, and you need to take title. We would use transactional funding, and then we put the BC contract in our name. So that's the only time it changes is when you're using transactional funding. But if you're not using transactional funding for this, then it goes in seller's name, and then you just sign AIF at the end. Your name, AIF.
Got it. I mean, that's what we do in brokerage, right? When we deal with AIFs all the time. Usually it's a family member, like the executor or whatever. Exactly. So that gets signed up front along with the wholesaling PSA, the novation agreement, the attorney in fact agreement.
So those first three agreements. Yep. That's all you need in the front end. On the middle part of the transaction, once we get a buyer in place, now you're going to go list the property in MLS, right? With a realtor, the whole nine, right? And then you're going to sign offers from the buyer broke. And then you get a buyer in place. When a buyer gets put in place, we put what's called a notice of interest on the property. And the notice of interest, it's different than a memorandum. And we're talking about clouding title here. A memorandum is saying I have a purchase agreement on this property, and a lot of states you have to have a seller wet sign that memorandum. With a notice of interest, all you're doing is saying, hey, I have a notice on this property. I have an interest. That's all it is. I have an interest in the property. It's very similar like a mechanics lien. A contractor can go down to the county and record a mechanics lien in your house, and they don't need you to sign. So we put a notice of interest in the property, the cloud title. This does two things. One, it protects our interest in the property, because now if we put any repairs in or anything like that, or we're paying for pictures, paying for cleanup, it's going to protect our interest. Two, it allows us to get paid when the transaction is done. So the notice of interest goes in the property. And then what happens at closing is you do a release of interest, and the title companies be like, hey, I see you have a notice in the property. What is it going to take for you to release this notice? And you're just going to tell them the AB contract minus BC, minus your realtor fees, minus your title fees, because you're going to pay for that. And then that's your amount that you're going to release your interest with.
Yeah. Basically, you're grossing up the net number when you list it to make sure you're going to get everything covered, right?
It needs to be right. Whatever you agreed upon with the seller, making sure that they get what was agreed upon. That's the most important part. We've got, many times where title companies have messed it up, and when we get the HUD, there was one like a month ago where the seller signed, and I swear sellers don't read their HUDs. And it's just like, it scares me. They signed it, and we were getting their proceeds. It was like $38,000. And because I noticed our fee was way too much. I'm like, no, my TC is the first one that caught it. I go, that's not right. I don't care. They signed that seller is getting that money.
Yeah.
Call the title company back, have them redo the HUD. And someone unethical could have definitely taken the money and ran. But sellers don't read HUDs, and title companies will mess up your transactions all the time. So you have to be on top of it with novations, and you have to triple check your HUDs line item by line item. Make sure everyone's getting paid the appropriate way that you agreed upon and such. And there's been times they short our fee too, and that happens. So they got to be very careful. Title companies are not used to novations. There are a lot of them that'll do it, but this is not commonly practiced. Like wholesaling, I think almost 90% of title companies know what wholesaling is now. Every once in a while, we'll be in a rural market and they won't know. It's funny. But in 90% of them know it now, and they know exactly what an assignment is. They know how to, put it on the HUD. And with novations, it's not that way. You have to do a lot of educating. And now we use a very good TC company, a transactional coordination company. And this company, they understand novations, and they vet our title companies for us nationwide to make sure that we're getting the right title company to work with to transact our deals. So
that's awesome. I'm going to ask you a technical question. So,
okay.
You've got your listing paperwork signed. You've got your list price on there that will get you everything covered. Probably the hardest part of that is anticipating the expected potential repairs. Is that the hardest part?
I love that. Yeah, they're great. No, yes, you're right. That is sometimes always like the unknown. So always we're taking what the word of the seller on the front end, and we're taking. We're having the realtors, when we first get a deal locked up, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to reach out to realtors to go out and look at the property for us, schedule pictures, and give us a market analysis on the property. Because even though we think we know what it's worth, Nobody knows what it's truly worth better than a realtor who's a badass in that market. So you're looking for the rock star realtors who understand that market, who are in the streets every single day. They will understand the value better than you do because we're virtual. I mean, I understand Phoenix very well because I fix and flip here. I don't fix and flip in Seattle. If I want to do a deal in Seattle, I need to call you and be like, look, here's what I think my valuation is. Here's what we're going to do. And then you're going to tell me. And then you're probably going to go to the property or go out and take pictures. And you're going to say, hey, by the way, did you know it's going to need a new roof? It's going to need a new AC. It's going to need a new water heater. The electrical box is shot. You know, you're going to tell me. And so we're going to try to address a little bit of that on the front end. If my spread allows it, great. We'll go ahead and build it in if my spread allows it. If it doesn't, then we might have to have a conversation with the seller. Now, what's great about Novations is most of our deals, we list only conventional and cash. We don't list FHA and VA unless we're in a rural market. If we're in a rural market and the spread makes sense, we'll do it. Because in FHA and VA, you're required to make the conventional financing. Oh, it needs a new roof? Okay, Mr. Buyer or Mr. Buyer's Realtor. How much is a new roof going to cost in that market? Oh, it's $8,000. Okay, how about we credit you that at closing? And they usually take it. They usually take it. You know, there'll be times where they're like, well, my buyer really wanted it fixed. Okay. Then we'll call the trade. And we've done this. We'll call the trade and we'll have the trade do the work and have them get paid out of closing. Yeah. So that's another little hack you can do. If the buyer credit don't work, find a trade that will do the work and get paid from closing. There's a lot of them out there that will do it. Yeah, exactly. Smart ones might be willing to do that. That's the hard part that you guys need to understand. That's why you need to involve the realtors to help you out there. It's like a partnership. The notice of interest. So does that get signed simultaneous with a buyer signing the new agreement, the C agreement? We only sign the notice of interest. It's just us. And my TC's a notary. He's in here. It has to be notarized. So I sign it. He notarizes it, and then he records it with the county. Most of our recordings you can get done through simplyfile.com or deeds.com, and that's where we'll file them. Otherwise, if it's a smaller county and they're not registered, then we'll have to call he'll call the county, work it out with them, how to record it. And every county has their own little stipulations. Literally like margins on the side of the paperwork have to be a certain state. I mean, it's crazy. So you guys record that when you know you have a buyer in place, a replacement buyer on the novation, but not before. That's correct. Typically not before, unless we're going to do some upfront work to the property, then we will. Or if we feel like we're already getting snaked on a deal, then we will. But I don't want to record, in the beginning, especially in the beginning, because I was not in the beginning, when you're trying anything new, you're not the greatest at it, right? And so I was getting all these novation deals all over the United States, and and maybe half would close, or maybe three. I didn't want all these notice of interests recorded on properties if I couldn't close the deal. Now we're a lot better. I mean, we close probably 9 out of 10 now, but I didn't want to record a notice of interest on a property if I knew I couldn't perform. I mean, what would happen if you couldn't? Didn't you just release it anyways? You can release it. Yeah, that's the alternative, right? You can record. Yeah, that could be one strategy. You record all your notice of interest in all the properties and just release them. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. So is there any issue on the buyer's agent side? Do they ever give any crap? The buyer's agent? I mean, you'll get pushback from it once in a while, and you'll have to break it down to them in layman terms, just like we do everybody else. I mean, we have, like, our sellers, we have a little credibility cartoon video that we play with the sellers that really explains the process in layman terms. And they're the same with the realtors and same with the buyer brokers too. But we get a lot less pushback from buyer brokers than we do the selling side. It's like when you do the selling side, you have to get their head wrapped around the idea before they take it on the listing. With a buyer, they're just, I think they feel like the liability falls on the seller's realtor. Maybe that's why. And it's not nearly an issue. We break it down to them what we're doing, or the realtor does, and usually we get the deal done. Every once in a while, you get these counties or these states where it's like it's part of the process where the buyer chooses the title company on every deal.
Okay.
Well, we make sure in our listing, we like, hey, title and escrow is open at X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Before you make your offer, you're gonna have to submit your offer with this title company kind of thing. So if they're not willing to use our title company, don't submit an offer. We don't want your offer.
Yeah.
So
how would a buyer's agent even notice that it's different than a regular listing? Is it because they don't see the listing paperwork?
Yeah, they don't really, unless they're having that conversation with the realtor. You know what I mean? It typically.
Yeah. How would they even know? I mean, they don't see the seller's HUD. They don't see the seller's listing paperwork. What name shows up on the listing paperwork as the seller name? Is the actual seller?
Seller's name. Yeah.
Right.
It's seller's name. We're just signing on behalf. Yeah. It's all seller's name. And that might be where.
There's where they see it. Yeah.
Where they're like, who is this Corey Geary signing AIF? And then the realtor might have to break it down a little bit to them.
And again, frankly, from a broker's standpoint, they don't need to have any concern on that, because that'd be the listing agent making sure that their seller is vetted through the title company and allowed to do that. That's a listing agent issue, not a buyer's agent issue to worry about. So, okay, I'm just talking it through on both sides of the coin. Cool. So that is what it is. It's, and when we were when I was wholesaling back in the day, I would wholesale to a partner, and then we would close on it, and we would not do anything other than throw some boards on the window and maybe make it vacant, not even clean, list it back on the MLS. We were making 70 to 100 grand, but it was getting closed on and then listed, which is also something people can do. Let me ask you a question. What happens if you can't get it sold once it's listed on the MLS? You've got your underlying agreement in place. Does the novation agreement gets signed as part of the initial paperwork along with the attorney in fact? So you've got these documents in place. You've listed it for sale. The seller's probably not paying attention because they're just waiting for their check. But what happens if it doesn't sell on the MLS? Now you're in your wholesale contract still at a price that you can't close on.
Correct. So we analyze our deals as we have 2 disposition meetings every single week. My dispositions managers communicate with the realtors on a consistent basis. We're analyzing, okay, how many walkthroughs do we have? How many people saved it on Zillow? How many people have called? Have we had any soft offers yet? And we're analyzing every single deal, and we'll price drop the property accordingly to our meetings. And if we feel like that we're just getting to where there's no spread left and we can't get the deal to transact, maybe the repairs are more than what we anticipated, that needs more work done to the house, then we're going to have to call the seller and have that tough conversation with them. And about 50% of the time, it works out about 50% is that you could either renegotiate with the seller, or the other option is just canceling with the seller. But a lot of times the sellers will renegotiate because you were very upfront with the seller on what your process was. Yeah. We are going to be finding a third-party buyer via the network of realtors and our buyers network and the MLS alike. And you're very upfront and you're letting them know, hey, we've gotten some interest on it, but the repairs are way more than what me and you had talked about, what we anticipated, and we can't get the property sold unless we're going to be at X. And so you're just having that conversation with the seller on the back end if you need to. We try to do actually the front end. I'm sorry, the front end, because you're trying to nip that in the bud. So like after a week or two, you'll notice if you're getting the action you need on the property as far as the listing's concerned, and whether you need to have that conversation with the seller.
Has the seller ever said, prove to me that you got some action or anything like that you tried? You tried.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then we'll just send over the listing agreement, or if we had offers. Sometimes you get offers that are lower, and we'll show them that. Yeah, it's very rare they ask that.
Yeah,
it's very rare.
Right. So what does that mean? Because you're still in contract technically. They don't technically have to renegotiate with you unless your underlying contract. Do you leave a contingency in there so you can get out of it without losing your earnest money?
We do. It's the exact same kind of agreement as wholesalers use, so if we have a 90-day close of escrow on there, we have our contingency that's 90 days too.
Your
And most of our
contingency? Yeah. And they're like, why would you need a 90-day inspection contingency? And you just say that's part of how this has to work?
Well, you let them know that's for our buyer, our third-party buyers can walk the property, inspect the property out. We always put it back onto the buyers that we're partnering with. And here's what I love about novations versus wholesaling. The transparency that happens in novations is so beautiful. In wholesaling, you're keeping it secret from the seller that you're selling the contract. You're keeping it secret from the buyer and how much you're making. And deals blow up all the time because everything happens in between this. With novations, you're fully transparent with the seller. You're fully transparent with the buyers. Buyers don't care what you're making. They'll overbid the property. They don't care. Retail buyers don't give one crap about it. Investors do. Investors count your money. They'll count your HUD.
Well, a retail buyer, a novation's not even going to know because they don't get your original contract like they do in wholesaling. You're not assigning it to them. It's their new MLS contract with their MLS forms is the new contract novating your wholesale agreement, right?
That is correct. Yep. So the transparency is so beautiful in novations versus wholesaling. I mean, it's less deals fall apart.
How about this one though? What happens? This is what I'm going to try and poke a few holes because there probably isn't any. But
sure.
Have you ever had it where the seller? So now a purchase and sale agreement is signed by you, your firm as attorney in fact, and you guys have signed the purchase and sale agreement. So, but who signs the final closing statement? You.
The final. The closing statement and deed, the final paperwork is signed by the seller. We have the seller sign the deed over.
And somewhere in the agreements, it says, seller, you're still going to sign the final HUD and the deed, right?
Correct. We let them know that because we're not taking power over the real estate. Now, if you're doing the power of attorney way, you can sign the deed over.
Terrible.
I don't want to do it. It's just for me, the liability plus the headache that comes with it is not worth that. And I've had sellers, they call me like, why are you signing the final paperwork? Even though I had that conversation with them, they're like, why aren't we signing the deed? Are you scamming us?
Yeah.
It scares people. And so you just want to work in a very ethical manner, especially if you're trying to scale this. Obviously, if you're doing one novation here, one novation there, then you're probably going to be okay doing the power of attorney, signing deeds, maybe even holding proceeds. I would never recommend it. But if you're going to scale this and make this a business model, we need to work in a very ethical manner so we can cross our T's, dot our I's, make sure we don't get in trouble.
The whole way this is going to work and remain working so the real estate commissions and the rest of the world doesn't come down on this as soon as it gets big is it has to be completely transparent. That's how you protect even the lane of the ability to do this. As we know, wholesaling is being cracked on across the country, right?
Yeah,
you don't want novation to get cracked on. And the beauty about novation, the whole point on why even an agent like myself can be somewhat excited about is I look at it as a solution that I can't or maybe don't want to offer because I don't want to get that close necessarily, but it fills a need and it's good for everybody, I guess I'll say, right? So the seller's getting more. Since the seller is seeing the settlement statement that shows how much your lien payoff is, they're seeing how much you're making.
Yep,
correct?
That is correct.
Now, does that ever get into a beef? What happens when they're like, shit?
Of course.
Right. Then
nothing works perfect, right? And this is just like anything else. Like when you're wholesaling, the buyer saw your assignment fee and it's $80,000 and he flips out, right? You got to get over the objections. We let the sellers know, like, listen, that money there is being paid for by the buyer. It covers all the realtor fees. It covers all of the title fees. It covers our marketing fees and covers our inspection repair fees. And it covers our fee. We have to make a marginal profit too, Mrs. Seller. So all that is embedded in there, paid for by the buyer. You will get in the net number that was agreed upon.
Yeah, you're saying I'm not getting that net number, Mr. Buyer, right? Well, no, you are. Isn't that
correct? Well, we are, but I'm going to let them know that realtor fees are coming out of that. Title fees are coming out of that. Inspections came out of that. We're letting them know that we have a marketing fee that we got to pay for, which we do. And my cost per deal is around $3,500. So, we got a marketing fee that comes out of that, and then there's our fee. So, and we let them know. Now, 90% of the time that squashes the objection. The other 10% of the time, we've had it a couple of times. We're like, okay, Mr. Seller, we'll break it down to them. And then when we get to our fee, maybe it's like we say, okay, we're making like 10,000 on this. So when we get to our fee, instead of, we don't negotiate out of these fees, we just break it down and say, well, how about we split that 10,000 with you?
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, sure. So there's been times at the end where we've had to split a little bit of the proceeds, a little bit of the bottom proceeds.
I'm thinking about how a HUD works, and it line items out those numbers, right?
So it won't line item out your fee, though. Your fee is lumped in there, and you have to explain to the seller and break it down to them. So they think, Corey's getting $40,000 on this deal. No, we have to pay realtors, we have to pay title fees, we got to pay the inspections, we have to pay marketing. And then at the end of the day, there is our fee. We have to make a marginal profit too, Mrs. Seller.
I'm with you, but I feel like on our settlement and HUD closing statements, unless the title companies or escrow companies you're working with know not to do it, that on our traditional HUDs, the excise tax, all that stuff, maybe that's the clincher about your course that people need to take. Because to me, that's a little confusing. Regardless, they might see you're making, the point is they see you're making money or not. And sometimes you have to cut a deal with them. Sometimes you don't. You're able to use your objection. Yeah.
You call them up, try to get over the objection. And then, at the end of the day, if you got to cut another deal with them, you cut another deal with them and just get the deal done. I mean, that's what it comes out. And we've only had to do that like twice, and we've done hundreds of these. Yeah. So it does happen.
Awesome. What happens? Do you think, here's my goofy, do you know who Jeff Watson is? Do you know that attorney, Jeff Watson?
I think so. I think I'm on Facebook.
What happens if you guys get an offer? So the seller's situation is they want a net number, right? I guess in your disclosures, and part of the thing is, I know in my wholesale agreements, right? I had a line in my wholesale agreement that said, our intention is to make a material profit or a significant profit. Right there in the wholesale agreement, our intention is to make a profit. Because what I'm thinking at is, what happens if you were to get an offer that you listed on the MLS and you've promised this net number to the seller, and you get an offer, but it basically breaks even where the seller could still get his net number, but you might not get your spread. Are you required, because you have this underlying contract with them, you essentially got their net number, right? Yes, if you had it in your wholesale agreement that you should get a spread, essentially, because it says right in your wholesale contract, we need to make a profit. You can make the argument that we need to make a reasonable profit, and then it can be argued what the reasonable profit is. But if, let's say, you were only going to make $5,000 or something, and it was in my market, that's not a lot. That would be a low thing. And you deny accepting that offer. I wonder if there's like the seller's like, but I could have had and then you go back and you try and give them less. If they could be like, well, that's a specific performance type of thing.
Sure. You gotta be careful with those kind of things, right? And so obviously we're going to take the highest and best offer, but if you only got one offer and that offer is only going to get you a few $1,000s, we did this a couple of weeks ago. We had a deal close. We made $2,000. Okay.
You just close it.
$2,000. We close it. We try to still renegotiate with the seller, let them know. We even let them know that, with all these fees taken out, we're not making anything on this, Mr. Seller. Like we have to make something on this. This repair was more than we anticipated. It's more than you had told us it was. We still try to renegotiate the best of our capability. At the end of the day, if you don't, and the deal still works, just do the deal.
Well, that's my point. If the seller is still going, because I think that's where the trouble could come in for Novation down the line, is if people find out that the investor is not signing the contract that would have got the seller their net number just because they got a really low fee. Now, the chances are that's not going to happen very often. And it's just
right. You're going to make it up on the next one.
You're going to make it up on the next one. It's part of the business. You're going to have that happen sometimes. Just like an agent, we might have a listing get canceled on us sometime after we've spent a couple $1,000, and shit sucks, but it is the way it is. It's just part of the business, right?
part of the business. At the end of the day, we're in the business to do one thing, and that is to help the sellers, right? Obviously, we want to make money, but that's an afterthought. You need to be in this with the right state of mind, that you're here to solve problems.
It's a service.
You know, sometimes you're going to kill it, and sometimes you're not. And that's the same with wholesaling. We've assigned deals for $1,000 before because we couldn't get any of the buyers. Like, we can't get any of the buyer, and the inspection period's almost up, and it's going to be a cancellation of contract. And it's like, just assign the deal for $1,000. Let's just get it done and close. Right. Like, that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be offering a service. And that you raise a good point, though, because that is why wholesaling is being cracked down on, because there's a lot of bad actors. There's a lot of bad things going on there because it's not regulated. And I am afraid of that with novations, because there are people who teach novations in a different way.
I think you need to shout it from the rooftops, Corey, and be the guy that is the do it the right way guy. And make sure that everybody knows there's a wrong way to do it to be a bad actor.
Oh, so many wrong ways.
I actually think it would be in your best interest, in a weird sort of way, also to educate the agents. Like, hey, agents, if you ever see this power of attorney with an investor stuff, you need to raise a red flag. In fact, Corey, you could make a checklist that you give to the agents, right? And you can say, I'm going to do this the right way. And so I want to help you, because agents, you might come across these deals on your own, and you don't want to work with some investor in your market doing this, right? That you go to and say, hey, why don't you be the novation partner on this? And then they do it wrong. So Corey, another thing for you, I'm thinking, we're just making this up as we go here, that you make a checklist and you're like, hey, agents, do you want to do this the right way? Like, I want to be that person too. Right. And then all of a sudden that takes the intention off you. You look like you are intending, and you are intending to do it the right way. So if anybody ever does give you shit, you can say, no, look, I preach to do it the right way. So don't accuse me of not doing it the right way, because I intend to do it the right way. And I've always intended. I even teach people to have the intention to do it that right. Almost helps you keep crap off your back.
100%. We've actually had brokers ask us, hey, can you give us a kind of like that checklist, breakdown of exactly what you're doing? And we've done it before. We have a document that we've kind of drafted up, and just kind of like, here you go. Here's what we're doing, how the process works. This is mainly for the selling side, when they kind of ask a lot of questions, or the realtors, brokers, like, well, can you give us something that shows exactly how you're structuring the deal? And so, you make a good point. Yeah, very good point. Because unfortunately, as this gets more and more public, and it becomes more like in the spotlight, there's going to be bad actors, and that's what happened to wholesaling. It's just, and then
you got to be the guy that protects novation for the world. You know what I'm saying? Or and otherwise it's going to get taken down. I want to point something out to the wholesalers out there that they might not also realize, which novation takes care of, which is so awesome for you guys. In wholesaling, people, when you have a deal under contract as a wholesaler and you assign it, okay? I'm super schooled on legal wholesaling with my buddy, Jeff Watson, who's the national legal authority in my eyes on legal wholesaling. If you haven't listened to that podcast we did with Jeff, Corey, you should do it. Number 63. I mean, joke, you said it here or whatever. But what the reality is about wholesaling is that if you assign your wholesale contract, okay, what you have in our market, you can actually list a wholesale deal on the MLS. You are allowed, because you have equitable interest, and you are allowed to hire as a wholesaler. If your wholesale contract says you can list it on the MLS, you can go ahead and list it on the MLS as a wholesale deal with special language. You got to pay the brokers, right? And stuff like that, kind of like novation, but it doesn't remove the legal liability for you, because you're still, shit rolls downhill if something goes wrong, and you're still on the hook with wholesaling. That's the beauty of novation here. What wholesalers don't realize is that if you leave a contingency in the contract, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not a lawyer, but I learned this from Jeff, you lose your equitable interest. what you're trying to assign is no longer valid if you assign a wholesale deal that has outs in the contract. If you assign a wholesale deal that has an inspection contingency that continues on, you don't have equitable interest anymore because there's a way out. That's what I learned from Jeff. So when you're wholesaling, that buyer has to come in and basically just go straight to closing. You're allowing them in your timeline on your contract before you assign it to come in and inspect. But once you assign it, no more inspection, that's gone. And that preserves the equitable interest that allows you to assign it. If you assign something that has an out still, I believe, you guys can check with your lawyers, that you just illegally wholesaled that deal and you lost your equitable interest ability to assign it, technically. Now they close all the time, but if somebody wanted to come fight you about it, that could be a thing. With Novation, all that goes away because that contract is replaced and terminated with the MLS, which everybody likes to see. Everybody doesn't like to look at wholesale investor deals. They like the MLS contracts. That's the end document. No problem. You're not, and it's legally terminating that wholesale contract that nobody likes. It's like, God, I can't believe it took you guys this long. I mean, I would think, God, that'd be something I'd think about. I can't even, so this is nice. As long as, like Corey is mentioning, you're not working with a bad actor using a power of attorney agreement who is taking control of the property and the proceeds and all this other stuff, right?
Playing with fire.
Awesome stuff, man. Well, geez, Louise, guys, this is a big deal here today. This is a game changer. So congratulations, Corey, on, being a guy that has brought this to the table. And so what we want to talk about is that you guys, there's a lot to know here. For God's sakes, there's no way you could go out and do this on your own, right? I mean, I've spent years myself. I have hunted down people like Corey and people like, Sean Terry and Jeff Watson, who's a friend. He's even been to my house to, keep us all good and square over here. And I'm excited about this, and I look forward to making sure I have all my I's dotted and T's crossed and being, a good partner for you, Corey, potentially too. But you guys, if this interests you, which it should, because it's going to replace wholesaling. So you better get on it now and you better start learning and educating yourself about this. And of course, because of course he's going to have this, Corey has a mastermind and a course that can teach you how to do this. He put in the time, he spent all the money, he's taken all the hard knocks, and he deserves, and he should be the one. I don't know who else teaches it. I only know at this point that Corey teaches it. So here it is, right? Bird in hand. And we are going to give you guys the information on how you can jump into Corey's mastermind. We never promote, sell, coaching, do any of that. It's like we're anti this, but this is such a big deal. And that I am actually want to do that this time because you guys need to know about this or you're going to get left in the dust. This is modern real estate investing. This is modern brokerage, right? And just as the brokerage firms all got up to speed 10 years too late on cash offers, and they all offer cash offers now, working with investors, I'll say, this is a way for us to continue the relationship with investors as brokers too. It touches both sides. You need me, I need you. So we all need to get educated about this. All of us. If you don't learn about this, you're going to be missing something that's going to be a big part of real estate going forward, whether you like it or not. So we have come up with some links. I'm going to tell you the links that we're working with Corey that you could get access to his course by looking at the links below or by stopping by on Thursdays. Of course, we can talk about this more on Thursdays at our weekly mastermind, but we're going to call it if you go to Seattle Investors Club, how do you say it, Joe? We're going to use Novation Nation.
Yep. Just go to seattleinvestorsclub.com/Novation Nation, and that'll get you to exactly what you need.
All the good stuff from Corey, guys. And again, You guys have all paid crazy amounts of money for your education up to this point. I know you have, right? This is not something you can learn on YouTube because there's too many legality, too many documents involved. This is not a YouTube lesson. You can get the concepts of it, but it's not that expensive considering all the stupid money you've spent in the past on education and $25,000 for this and $10,000 for this. Dang, guys, this is going to be worth the money to get in the know this time. So, Corey, good stuff, brother. And maybe if you guys ever want to pop in on a Thursday, we are Pacific time. Every Thursday, 11:30 to 12:30, we have that mastermind. You actually popped in, like we said, once or twice before, or somebody on your team or whatever, we'd be welcome to have you. It's the same time every day or every week. So is there anything you want to add on top, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, for people who can't wrap their head around it, think of it as wholesaling without taking possession. That's one good way to think about it. And then another thing that's really good about novations, you can do novation flips. And we've done this before where we've gone into the full remodel of the house before we even list the property. And what's great about this is you don't have the carrying costs you do with your normal fix and flips. And you're able to sell right out of the gate to an FHA VA buyer because you don't have the 90-day seasoning rule in place. They're using the seller seasoning. So it's another good little hack. If
Same agreements or an additional JV agreement? Same
agreements. We use the same exact agreements because we're still agreeing that the seller's going to get X. And we're going to go and put money into the property that we're, are to do the rehab. And then, same agreements. You just put you want to record the notice of interest up front before you do any work to the property. Yeah.
Are you putting a dollar amount? You're not putting a dollar amount on that notice of interest up front.
Not on the notice. On the release, you'll have a dollar amount. Notice, no dollar amount. You just you're just saying, hey, I have a notice in the property. It's all you're doing.
Same on the JV as with the novation, right? It's just a notice without a number on it. You get asked by escrow what your number is to release it. And at that time is when that number goes on there.
Correct. Yeah. That's correct. You got it.
Yeah. Hey, last question. What kind of upside or profits for your investor side are you guys roughly thinking about on the novations? To start your calculation, when you do your
underwriting, we want to make. Well, I try to make at least 20 in each one. Doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
And can you still? Okay, I lost you guys for a second. So we try to make 20 at least on each one. That's where we go into. That way, it gives us room for buyer credits, or if we have to do repairs to the property and still try to make a spread. Right. Our average assignment fee nationwide is $17,000. That's our average assignment fee for wholesaling. I'm talking about. We do it, in California, obviously we never had an assignment fee under 50, but in Ohio, we have assignments that are like 5. So nationwide is 17. Novations, our average novation fees around $33,000 now. And it's not uncommon to have $70,000, $80,000 novation fees.
But that's because it gets bid up on the MLS or whatever, right?
That's most of the time it gets bid up. It
so
does.
When you're doing your underwriting, though, your calculator in the beginning to even decide how much to list it for, do you have okay, we're going to try and get, for lack of a better way of saying it, 6% or something like that? You know what I mean? Of how do you...
Right, you need to underwrite it. Yeah, so you underwrite it, you take out the real... You got to look at the as-is value of the property. So in wholesaling, you're looking at ARVs. And you're going, okay, 70% of ARV minus repairs and all that whatever math you're using for your market. In novations, you're taking the as-is value, true as-is value. Find if your property was built in 1980 and never updated, find comps that were built in 1980 and never updated. Take the true as-is value. You got to think yourself almost like an appraiser. And it's kind of a little bit different than what we think as a wholesaler. And so you take a true as-is value, you minus out your realtor fees, your title fees. There's your net number now. And now you want to make a profit. And you got to embed in some room for buyer credit, depending on what the repairs was talked about with the seller. But you want to embed in a little bit more because it's usually more than what is always anticipated. So you got to figure out your repairs, and then you have to make a net number yourself. So, and I like to shoot for 20 is what I like to shoot for.
In your pocket.
So 20. That's how you figure. Yeah. And you'll find most of the time, depending on the condition of the house, most of the time you're able to pay more for the property than you would than wholesaling. Most of the time, it's depending on condition. But, we're still negotiating all the time cash first to try to get that need price from the seller. There's a need price and an ask price. We're always trying to get close to the need price so we can make a decent spread too. Because on some, we're going to make home runs and some we're not. So you got to be able to do your best at still negotiating. This is not a crutch for poor negotiation skills. And I know that because that's what my team used it for when I first taught it to them. You still have to be good at negotiation. You still have to get in there and get your number as close to your number as you can. It's your job as an investor to try to make this. We do this business for a profit. We have to make a living. This is what feeds my family now. So obviously we'll do deals and not make money, not much money on it. It happens, but that's not our goal.
Are you worried about if the market, we've been in an appreciating market since you started this.
Yeah. That's
so
a good point. Yeah.
Things could change here. It could get ugly. And that's where the transparency with the seller comes in. Be like, hey, we're not in an appreciating market anymore necessarily. Or if that were to happen, which maybe there's some thoughts that we could be bouncing around. So
you got to learn to pivot. You got to learn to pivot. And it's the same with wholesaling. Wholesaling won't be the same if we go into, another correction or, it's just going to be a different place out there, and you have to pivot. We are right now, we're learning a lot about seller financing and how to pitch seller financing. So we'll still be doing novations. You just got to make sure you're locking that novation up now a little bit deeper than you normally would. You have, obviously everything can be sold for a price. You got to make sure your pricing is right. And that is the most critical thing. If you can't convert it to novation or wholesale, maybe you pitch seller financing. You need to start having multiple tools in your tool belt if we start going into a correction, and that is the key. So,
and also just that transparency up front with the seller, like, hey, look, this is the market right now. And if we can't hit this number, we're going to have to come back to you. Right. I mean, there's a lot of sellers say, this is the way to take your shot to get this number. However, if it doesn't work out, just know we have to come back and talk about it. Right. And to me, it seems like everything can be past the smell test, the ethics test, all that other stuff. If it's all laid out and said, go do that then. Like you said, push against the objection. But this is what you said you needed. I've shown you how you can, have less hassles, or I've shown you how you can get different levels of more money in your pocket, which these are all the options. We don't care which one you choose. You choose what's right for you, right? If you want these options, this is where we're going to be able to help you, period. I don't see how anybody can get in trouble, except for the weird power of attorney stuff, if all that's laid out. Almost like how I would do it is I'd have a letter. Here's the option one. Here's the 3 hassle-free options. Do you want one of those? Check the box, which one you want, initial and date it. Here are, on the same page, here are the hassle-free concierge options, right? And your estimated net number. Oh, just check the box, which one that you wanted. But it does show that I've showed you all of them. How am I going to get in trouble? How am I going to get in trouble?
Won't. And that's how we pitch our seller financing too. We'll have 3 different options. You got your cash option, which is obviously going to be at a deep discount. You got your, we put money down, which is kind of in the middle. And then your no money down, seller finance. And it's the same kind of structure, lead with cash, come in with what's next best, and obviously at the very top of the funnel, they can go list the property with the realtor and try to get, put the repairs in the property, fix it up, and try to maximize their full money potential out of the property. That is, at the end of the day, everyone knows that option. We can all do it. It's out there for us.
Are all you guys using flat fee listing brokers? There's one thing we didn't.
Not anymore. We used to use it a lot, but man, that is a headache, because then you're handling all the showings, you're handling the inspectors, you're handling all the pictures, you're handling the appraisal, you're handling everything in-house. And when you do this virtually with all these different markets, it becomes a headache. At one point last year, when I had 10 employees, I had 63 deals on the board. Most of them were novations. My team members were pulling their hair out in there, and we were losing deals. And that's because we're trying to save money on the broker fee for the selling side. When I said, let's start using local realtors in that market, oh my gosh, I can't explain how much easier the deals came and how much smoother transactions run. They become like a member of your team.
Yeah.
It is critical to do. Now, we still do it if we're in a rural market and we can't find a realtor to take the listing.
Yeah.
We'll do it. But it's okay to do a couple of those with a net or the flat fee listing. But be careful when you try to scale it, it becomes brain damage.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Actually, I think I remember when your guy came to our mastermind, when you popped in for a minute, we were talking about that. And he was using at that time a flat fee listing guy or whatever. All right.
Yes.
Well, geez, I'm in Seattle. If you guys have any deals out in Washington.
It's just an option. That's all it is. That's one of the options. It's not the premier option.
Gotcha.
I'd rather pay a little bit of money and make sure my deal works out.
I'm gonna wind this down and we're gonna wrap it up, and then we'll remind you one more time where you can get access to this. Absolutely, like, you have to know about this. So kind of no question about it here, whether you need to educate yourself on this. I want to point out to everybody, where this could seem if you don't think about it the right way, it could be like, oh, there goes those investors again, taking advantage of stuff. But let me explain it to you this way. If this didn't exist and this wasn't allowed, and the sellers out there had no options because they don't want to list for sale, they don't want to be don't worry about why they don't want to do it. They don't want the hassle. Okay. Don't you try to figure out why. It exists. Alternatively, you have wholesalers out there getting lowball deals to the sellers. They're getting low money because that's their only option, because they don't want to deal with a listing or whatever else there is. Remember, those wholesalers who are paying those low wholesale deals are turning around and selling those properties to investors who then renovate them, and they become expensive, non-affordable houses to buy fully flipped, or they become rentals, flip to hold, BRRRRs, right? Again, taken out of the affordable housing pool of properties available to the average buyer, the first-time home buyer, okay? If this doesn't exist, that's the situation. For those people that don't want to do for sale by owner, which is the reverse of a pain in the ass, right? That's the worst. Or those that just for whatever reason don't want to list for sale, okay? This serves that need. The seller gets more money. Agents are involved. The wholesaler makes some money because they've done the work and they've done all that marketing to get those leads and all that other stuff, right? And the end buyer, a retail end buyer, gets to buy an affordable property that they would normally, it helps a little with the inventory issue. This could be a benefit, if you think about it the right way, for the general public buyers, okay, as long as they are disclosed and it's a fully transparent, as Corey said, all the options. I know you are signing that you saw all these options. There you go. Frankly, if you are a real estate agent and you are not aware of these options, everything and more, because there's more options that we have been discussing today. If you're a traditional real estate broker these days and you walk into somebody's house and say, I can list it for sale for you, let's make these improve, you got to go paint or clean up or whatever, I'm going to list it for my commission. And you walk in there and you do that, and that's all you say, you are the bad guy. You are now the bad guy. Do you realize that, agents? Okay. If you want to know all this stuff, that is the world I live in, right? Thank you, Corey, for making my job. You just closed the link on another spot I couldn't fill. Now you've just added another thing to me as a broker. Okay. That's why Corey and I are going to be buddies. That's right. Because I get it. And guess what? You have to be somebody that articulates on why this is okay, why this is actually a benefit, potentially, as long as the disclosures and the transparency is there, to these sellers. Okay. It serves a need. It serves for the buyers, for the sellers, for the agents, for the investors. Word to your mama. That's what I'm saying.
Love it.
Okay. Well, there you go, guys. Joe, one more time, shout it out where they can get the access to Corey's course.
Yep. Head over to seattleinvestorsclub.com/Novation Nation. And guys, you can get to all of the information in the description down below if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you are on our website, or if you're listening to this on any of the podcast sources, just the audio, you can go to seattleinvestorsclub.com/163. And you not only get the link to Novation Nation, but you also get all of the show notes as well.
You know what's crazy karma, kismet weird shit right now is that my favorite podcast before this one was the Jeff Watson podcast on legal wholesaling. Okay. Game changer. To me, it is the best information you will ever find about wholesaling. If anybody hasn't listened to that, even Jeff says, holy shit, right? Guess what podcast number that was? 63. And here comes Corey, and he's number 163. That to me is like, stars aligning, man, right there.
Wow.
That's some, that's some juju, as I like to say it right there. All right, guys, here's the other thing. Yeah. And if you want to have questions about this during the week, you can just show up on Thursdays at 11:30 to 12:30 to our weekly virtual free to show up mastermind. And you just show up and you say, Julie, tell me about Novation, right? And I'm going to stay buddies here with Corey, right? I'm going to tell you, don't ask me 20 questions. You can ask me some, but have you actually taken the time to go get educated about it? But yes, we're going to talk about it on Thursdays. So I want to remind you also, the reason why you want to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel here on Seattle Investors Club is because each week we publicize and we put out the recording of our weekly masterminds. And if you're a member of Seattle Investors Club, only costs $220 a year. You're going to get to watch and listen to those recordings where we talk about shit like this every week. Okay. And you don't want to miss it. So yeah, hit the subscribe button below to get notified that our new mastermind, our weekly one, has hit the airways. You guys, this is a big deal going forward. Modern brokerage, modern investing, let's do it. All right. That's awesome. All I got. Exciting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Corey.
Absolutely. Truly an honor.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up and let everybody get back to work then. How do we do that, Joe? Lay it on us.
Yeah, guys, that's it. Head over to the description down below if you need to get to those links, or head over to seattleinvestorsclub.com/163 or seattleinvestorsclub.com/Novation Nation. And we will see you all next time.
See you later.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.